Hello Toy Collector fans, Universal Toy Collector here and welcome to the channel. And welcome to another episode of My Collecting Life, the weekly series where I get to speak with you, members of the toy collecting community, about your own personal collections, finding out what got you into collecting in the first place and what gives you that toy collecting buzz. Okie dokie then, so who is the guest on this week's episode? Well, why don't we find out? You all know the drill. Sit yourselves down, put your feet up and make yourselves comfortable. And let's take a look at some of his collection in a musical montage. Okay, then, so yet again, some more quality pieces in that collection, and I'm liking the fact that the majority of it is Star Wars. And it's for the first time, Rick from Leftcoast Graphics. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing good. How are you doing today, buddy?
Not too bad. It's currently fairly warm in the UK at the moment, so we're enjoying our summer. Hoping things are well with you, sir.
Yeah, no, it's definitely summer weather here the past couple weeks. I hope you can't hear my little air conditioner running in the background, but it's been running 24 hours, man. It's a savior for me.
Oh yeah, that's one thing the UK do not invest in at the moment, and that is air conditioning. So
That's
it's very
what I hear.
stifling in here at the moment. Yeah,
it's a rare thing.
Yes, yeah, you get them in the cars, but you don't get them in the buildings. So yeah, it's always enjoy it when I go to Florida, and it's like really like toasty outside. You just step into a store or something like that, and just stay in there for about 5-10 minutes just to cool down. But it's quite.
That's what I remember about traveling to Las Vegas in the States. Right in the middle of the desert, it's always like 100 degrees there, even if you go in December. But yeah, as soon as you go inside any of the buildings, like all buildings, super air conditioned.
So, it's awesome. I love going over there. We won't get into that, but I do. And I wouldn't mind going to Canada one time either. Beautiful country.
We'll have you, man. You're welcome anytime.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah. Oh, I don't need any excuses to come over. I just,
No, we let anyone in.
But, yeah, a bit like the UK, mate, to be honest with you. But anyway, we won't get into that. Any case, right, I've got 10 questions for you. It's all about you and your collection, your YouTube channels and bits and bobs. So when you're ready, should we crack on with the first one?
Let's go. Let's do it.
Awesome. Let's do this. Okay. What toy lines were you into as a kid, and what are your memories of them?
From my childhood, it's for sure going to be the vintage Star Wars Kenner toys here growing up in Canada. I remember playing with the Fisher-Price Adventure People, Lego, Tinker Toys, like the little wooden kind of Lego bits and bobs. Early toys. Yeah, but I guess the Star Wars is where, it had a property to go with it, movies, that I still remember going to as a young kid with my aunts and, my parents on different occasions from, A New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. But I guess really getting into the toys right off the start in, 78, 79, 80, when those toys were in every toy store and department store, and your friends' birthday parties or Christmas. Star Wars was always a big part of growing up for me. So it started with the toys, then the VHS tapes, when you can watch it at your
Yeah.
home and stuff like that, and 40 plus years later, it's still Star Wars. It's still my favorite
The original
toy
trilogy
line.
has stood the test of time, isn't it? The original trilogy, I've got to say.
Absolutely, and what I'm really liking is the reemergence of just retro, in general, when it comes to the toys and nostalgia and
Yeah.
pop culture, media and content and stuff that we can buy and whatnot, right?
Mm.
There's a lot of
Yeah.
people that maybe don't like it, that they make another Ghostbusters or they make another Indiana Jones or a Star Wars. I'm all for it, man. These are the things I loved as a kid, and to me, they've not ruined. Nothing's been ruined by keeping the dreams alive. Like I was waited 20 something years for new Star Wars from our childhoods, right? From the 80s,
Yep.
till,
Yep.
George decided, oh, I'm going to make three more movies. And I'm like, I'm 20 years old now. What do you mean? Like, so it was kind of cool, man. He gave us all a kick in the pants to remind us, hey, man, I'm the one that made all those toys when you were a kid. And now I'm going to make you buy them all again as an adult, you suckers. And it worked.
Absolutely. And yeah, it certainly did. It certainly did. What was your feeling back then as a kid when you first saw Star Wars, and then when you first saw the toy lines, and especially when you walk into a store and you've got all the toys just decked out in front of you, aisles and aisles of it? I mean, as a kid, what did that feel for you?
Well, I guess what appealed to me mostly because of, I guess the first we would see is the advertisements on TV. We would see, new from Kenner, Luke Skywalker and whatnot. And so that was your first time probably seeing them. We probably saw those commercials before we walked into a department store or Toys R Us and saw them on the shelves. But when
Yeah.
we did, I remember, and for me, it's the package design. Like it was meant to attract us kids, us little boys and girls. We would see, like the land speeder with Luke and Ben inside it, and stormtrooper, whatever, all the little toys,
Yeah.
real photographs of these toys. And I don't think it could have been done better. Like I really don't. Like I think a mix of the popularity of the films, because I know as a kid we all loved it. I don't think any of us as a kid didn't like it and went home crying and wished they saw something else instead.
Mm.
But yeah, we got hooked on the toys, and for me now, it's still about the presentation and how they package it. So again, I'm a fan of the retros and anything to do with reminding me of the toys that we either did have or always wanted to have as kids. So now a little bit of a journey in life now is a lot of us are recollecting those toys if we don't still have them.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
thanks to Hasbro for making retros, so making another option available to get vintage looking toys. Um, Masters of the Universe made those Origins toys. I
Yeah.
wasn't a huge He-Man kid, but
Yeah.
once I saw those, I'm like, oh man, I had this. Like I had Trapjaw and I had the Battle Cat, so I got into those too. I picked up
Mm.
most of those Origins when I saw them in stores because they were priced right. Um, they're based on the original toy design and the
Yeah.
package design and the card backs, and that's it, man. That's why I love those toys so much. Even now, still to this day, is mostly the vintage retro aspect of them. I love
So
Mandalorian and all the new toys they make too. Don't get me
yeah.
wrong, but when they put it on that Star Wars racetrack, card back or that package design, it's what
Mm.
makes it Star Wars again, right? It's gives
So
you
so
that
you
Kenner
feel then
feel.
with the retro collection, I know that they've done like the first 12 of the Star Wars figures. Then you've got a set for the Empire Strikes Back. You've got a set for Return of the Jedi. Are you quite happy that Hasbro are doing the Kenner style figures for the modern day Mandalorian, Obi-Wan Kenobi, or do you feel it should be just the
No,
original trilogy?
I'm for both. Like
Yeah.
much like everyone else, they're like, oh, we want to see the figures that you never made, right? So no,
Well, there's
don't
that as
just
well.
make
Yeah.
don't just make Luke and Ben and Chewbacca again. I'm all for that. Don't get me wrong; they got to make
Yeah.
those. It's a no-brainer. Yoda's, Princess Leia's, but yeah, why not more figures like that Grand Moff Tarkin they made?
Yeah.
Give us a rebel fleet trooper. Give us, another imperial dignitary maybe. So some figures that we can still keep in that original collection. But yeah,
Hmm.
for the Book of Boba Fett and the Mandalorian, and hopefully in the future, we'll see some Ahsoka or Andor or maybe Rogue One or Episode One in that retro 5 POA style, man. It's appealing to
Yeah.
me, and I think I am at least half of the fandom, like of the older generation who grew up with
Yeah.
these films as their first introduction to Star Wars, right? A lot of the
Yeah.
fandom, though, is some younger kids, call them kids, even though they're still 30 years old or whatever. They grew up watching episode 1, 2, and 3. So the
Yeah.
Phantom Menace and the cartoons and the Clone Wars was a lot of people's first introduction to Star Wars. And, you know, it might not be my favorite version of Star Wars, but it's still part of it. And they're
Yeah.
a huge part of the fandom. And a lot of the toys and the merchandise they're going to make is going to be for everybody. It's going to be for the people like me that love Chewbacca and Hammerhead, and the people that love Ahsoka and Rex, and you know a lot of those
Mm.
characters. So it's the more the merrier. Like, I don't think they're going to step on any toes if they make a box
No,
of
no,
vintage
absolutely.
stormtroopers and sell them as a 10 pack for $100 on Hasbro Pulse. Like, I think that's a no brainer, to be honest. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. Well, they've done the 4 packs, haven't they? The 4 packs of the Army Builder Stormtroopers, but
they're
they
doing that
don't
for,
seem to
yeah,
get.
the vintage collection. But I mean,
Oh,
like
they're
the
doing it for the vintage
retros.
collection as well. Oh, okay, right, right. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
lots
No,
of
true, true.
vintage collection has, what do they have? They got Dark Troopers,
Yeah.
Shore Trooper, like the modern era films, Stormtroopers, Rebel Fleet Troopers. Yeah, so they've made, I think, even Endor, like Rebel Troopers. So I think
Oh
that's
wow.
great. Like, I wish they made stuff like that when I was a kid. Like, we would just get 10 Stormtroopers if we could afford them or had them, right? Which now I do. Now I've got like 100 Kenner Stormtroopers because
Oh,
as a
cool.
kid it wasn't achievable. Maybe you get one a month, or one for your birthday, and
Yeah, yeah.
an ad if you're lucky, or a nice big vehicle for Christmas or something, right? But
Hmm.
yeah, I think every kid might have had 2 Stormtroopers, or two little army
Yeah,
builders of some kind to have some kind of fair army, right? So with the GI Joes, you got dozens of good guys and you got dozens of bad guys, but a lot of those bad guys are army builders, aren't they? Like,
yeah.
you know, like
Cobra troopers,
the
officers.
Vipers
Yeah,
and
the
the different
Vipers. Yeah.
troopers.
Were you
Yeah,
into
so I'm
GI Joe
still
as a
like
kid?
that today. Not a big GI Joe kid. Like, I did have
No.
some. Um, so GI Joe was about 83, 84 when I had that killer whale, the big hover boat.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
I had the snowmobile. I think that was called the Polar Bear. So I had and I had the base, the good
Okay.
guys, the little silver rebel base kind of thing, and a bunch of figures. So I grew up having some of those, some He-Mans, but 84, 85, I was getting a little older. Again, the end of Star Wars toys, and I was getting more into watching football and flirting with the girls or whatever, and
Yeah, yeah.
puberty and all this stuff kind of happens. So that's kind of when I got out of being a toy
Mm.
playing kid at 14, 15 years old. So I didn't really get into the GI Joes, but my memories are good, and I fondly remember my GI Joe vehicles having Canada flags on them, not
Okay. Yeah.
not American
Yep.
flags. Like, it was
Yeah.
international hero instead of American hero. So it's pretty neat to share some of those stories with the GI Joe community now that had no idea that we got the same toys in Canada, but they had Canada flags on them
Yeah.
instead of American flags.
Yeah. I've
Not a
seen some
big
of those.
deal, but
What's his name? Dave from Straight from the Pit. He's got like a few of the GI Joe figures and vehicles with the
yeah,
Canadian
yeah.
flag on there. So that's pretty awesome. Um, just quickly, when you said about the Phantom Menace and the new Star Wars films coming out, did you have that same feeling when you were an adult watching Star Wars as you did as a kid watching the original trilogy? Did those films do it for you in that respect, or did you come away feeling a
In
bit meh?
Well, in that perspective, I think absolutely they did. So when we were kids, the only way we knew Star Wars or Empire or Jedi were coming out, again, from newspaper advertisements, TV commercials,
Mm.
because even right after coming out of the theater for Star Wars as little kids or even our parents, we didn't know there was going to be an Empire Strikes Back or Return of the Jedi. So there wasn't any expectation. Maybe a little later down the line when Empire ended and we kind of like, oh, cliffhanger and stuff like that,
Yeah.
there, because they didn't put on the screen, Luke will return. We weren't hyped to know there was going to be another movie, but when when George Lucas was still involved and he did, and the internet was kind of new, StarWars.com was kind of new, things like that. We
Mm.
knew that this new prequel, a new trilogy of movies was coming out, being made
Mm.
and written by George Lucas, and yeah, I was over the moon. Like I was a young man at the time, going on with my life as a young adult, and yeah, the hype was real. Like
Yeah.
what did we wait 2 years, 3 years for the first one to come out with all the hype and the teasing we got and the marketing. The marketing was great. There was a lot of money spent on it. So yeah, I was very hyped. I don't think in any way I was disappointed after those movies. I was just
Yeah.
happy that there was new Star Wars. Yes, I bought all the toys because the toys came out before the movies did. We
Yeah.
went to Toys R Us at midnight, like a month before the movie even came out, and we're buying Darth Maul and Jar Jar. No, we know nothing about any of these characters. We're buying them all, and yeah, I have none of those toys now. Like, so
Oh.
it's not a toy line I ended up keeping because it wasn't, and still isn't my favorite Star Wars. But now that the sequel movies have come out, I
Yeah.
appreciate the prequels more. And I know it
Yeah.
sounds
Yeah.
weird, and
No, I get that. I
but
get that.
it is true because as much as the sequels are not my favorite of the 9 movies, 10 movies, I still enjoyed them from what they were, man.
Mm.
Brand new Star Wars content where they spent hundreds of millions of dollars in making these movies with their sets and their props and their spaceships, guys in stormtrooper costumes, whatever it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
I appreciate it for what it was, man. It was just numbing entertainment with lasers, swords, and spaceships. But sure, there's some things I didn't love about it, but I'm not that guy. I'm not a real big complainer. I'm not a fandom
Yeah.
menace, or I'm not gaining extra views because I think Kathleen Kennedy should be fired or any of that kind of garbage, right? So
Mm.
yeah, it's new Star Wars and any new future Star Wars. I hope I'm alive for it, man. Like I'm sure they'll keep making Star Wars after I'm long gone. But
Mm.
you know what? 20 years ago, I wouldn't have said that because 20 years ago, I never knew there was going to be any more Star Wars ever.
No, absolutely.
So
Absolutely. I think we all
yeah,
felt the same
bring it,
thing.
man. Bring it all. Cartoons, I'll watch it all.
You like the animated series?
I don't love them, but I
Yeah.
like them. Like I'm
Yeah.
50 years old now, so cartoons aren't as appealing to me as if I was a
As a kid,
child.
yeah.
But
Mm.
I've seen the early Clone Wars all the way up to the right now the current Bad Batch cartoons. I've seen them all, and
Yeah.
just the quality of the animation that they make nowadays, whether it's Disney or Pixar or Illumination or whoever's involved, it's freaking phenomenal, man. Like,
Oh, yeah.
so
It
it's
absolutely, absolutely.
it would be even good enough to see on the big screen in movie theaters, in my opinion. Like, I
Yeah.
think the
Mm.
quality's there. The big test now is Dave Filoni, the cartoon maker. How's he gonna do making a movie? So my fingers are crossed. I think
Well, I like Dave
he's
Filoni,
got
so I'm
all the
keeping my fingers
smarts
crossed
for
for him.
all
Yeah.
the Star Wars knowledge. Let's just see if he
Absolutely.
knows how to direct a movie. But I'm
Absolutely.
confident in it, man. I'm looking forward to any new Star Wars, man.
I think he gets Star Wars.
It's my number
Um,
one
I've,
gem.
I've got an idea what your answer is going to be to this next question. I'm going to ask it anyway. What was your favorite toy line and why?
The toy line, Kenner Star Wars,
Yeah.
and it probably got more love for them when The Empire Strikes Back came out and all those characters and vehicles and ships came out
Mm.
because that was the toyetic. Those are the toys that weren't just a cardboard playset and a land speeder because we didn't get a
Yeah.
lot of Star Wars, X-wing, Tie fighters, dewbacks. We got some awesome toys, but Empire, we had the introduction of Boba Fett and the AT-AT, which is one of the badass
Yeah.
toys ever. I think that's probably when I got my Millennium Falcon, was probably in the early 80s. I don't
Okay.
think I had it right away. So, yeah, I guess I really fell in love with the toys in the early 80s when the Empire toys started coming out, because it was
What was
almost
the
all
appeal
year
to you?
round, right?
What was it? What was so appealing about those toys for you?
I guess that's when I became a fan of the space action fantasy
Yeah.
genre of films. Like, I'm a film lover of all the films, right? Whether it's drama or science fiction or comedy. Like, don't get me wrong, I like a lot of movies, and I've watched a lot of movies. But as a kid, it was super appealing to me, and I guess my parents knew it, my family knew it. My aunts and uncles, everyone knew when I was a kid I was a Star Wars fan. So maybe it was because I wore the same T-shirt all the time. You never know, right? Or everywhere I
Yeah.
went, I
Yeah.
was carrying my Luke Skywalker or something like that, right? But yeah, it's weird because no other movie or franchise gave me those, make me feel like a kid again. As much as I
Yeah.
like, again, I'm loving right now all these new Indiana Jones retros,
Okay.
because they
Yeah.
never made,
Oh,
Dr.
hang on a minute.
Jones
Let me get you up
Sr.
there.
They never made, Henry Jones Sr. when I was a kid. So
Yeah.
now that they do, of course I'm buying this. Like, this is stuff that, dreams are made of. So I'm really happy with, you know, that kind of feeling that I get. Like, if I feel like a kid again, that's not a bad thing. I am
Absolutely
50
not.
years old. I may be a little immature for my age, but it's also part of my lifestyle, so to speak. What I
Mm.
do for a living, my artwork that I do is mostly, retro vintage toy influenced. So
Mm.
yeah, it almost like working, for George Lucas or in his world, but not really. It's as close as I can
Yeah.
get without
Yeah.
being involved. Like, if I knew some of the things I know now when I was 19, 20 years old, growing up and making all those life decisions, I would have loved to, like, get in a bus and go down to California and just hassle all these guys at ILM making all these AT-AT props and model builders, and like Adam Savage and all those guys. That would be a dream for me, man. Like,
Yeah.
even now as a 50-year-old man, I'd still get on a bus and go down there and try to get a job as like one of those prop master guys, or, if you're making the scale models and all that kind of stuff. But it's not a big part of the business anymore with CGI and the computer animation and what's going on now. But I've grown more in love with that stuff now that they kind of don't use it anymore than I did in my
Yeah.
early 20s when I
Do
was
you
playing football
ju-
and working on my career
just
and stuff.
touching on that with CGI? Do you think films now are too reliant on CGI and they don't use the tried and trusted build the sets? Because for me, I think with sets, you've got something there visual. You can see it's like the whether it's an old set, whether it's, do you know what I mean? It just gives the actors
Oh, for
something
sure, for sure.
to play with. I mean, are you all for the sets, or are you quite happy with CGI now, or do you
No,
think it's
absolutely.
overused?
The practical effects, like, like a guy in a costume as a Gamorrean guard, or
Yeah,
Bib Fortuna, or any Jabba the Hutt. Even, like, there was like
yeah,
five little guys in there moving the arms and the tongues and the
yeah,
tails. That's the most badass thing I think ever in any kind of movie making skill, separate of the acting and the writing and producing and all the people involved in making those movies. That is, it just brings you into that universe, I think, a little more. So,
mm,
based on that same kind of question, the Mandoverse and the Mandalorian and all these new
yeah,
Disney Plus
yeah,
shows introduced this new technology called the stagecraft, or the
yeah,
volume, as they call it, where
yeah,
instead of having the blue screen or the green screen behind them, that George kind of, no, he didn't invent it, but he kind of mastered it when he
yeah,
made the prequels. It looked awesome on the screen, and don't get me wrong, it was badass. Jurassic Park, all those things were super badass. And that's when that change kind of started from, Stan Winston building a robotic T-Rex to, like,
yeah,
you know what, we can do this on a computer now, thanks to the creations of ILM and Pixar and all these different new companies coming in the late 80s. But yeah, the Mandoverse, the season 1, I thought looked phenomenal. I thought it seemed like they spent a good amount of money and budget on some practical effects, and then whenever possible, the stagecraft. When they're doing those certain kind of sceneries. But I don't think that translated as well on the Kenobi series and Book of Boba Fett. Like, I loved all the series, but I think the Kenobi series and the Book of Boba Fett series looked fake in that regards to um, the stagecraft. Like, I could tell when they're just standing in front of a blue screen now, as opposed to when they were in front of a blue screen. I don't think I could tell, but now it's like you can kind of tell because they're actually, when they film it with that projection back there, and if they want to, they can remove that projection in digital and add it in again, or change it, or blur it, or give it speed lines. It's magic, man, what they can do now. But then Andor came out, and I'm like, oh, they figured it out. Like, let's use more real effects and on location, and then green screen and stagecraft. And I think it showed. I think that the Andor series is some of the best looking live action Star Wars that's ever been created. Like, it's maybe not the most Star Warsy when it comes to like aliens and stormtroopers and laser swords and the wizards and all that, but fuck, it looked real, man. Like when they were in those mountains, they were really in those mountains, and those are real places that people have visited and stuff, and those concrete buildings that were the Imperial officers' headquarters and database, whatever they're called. I just think it looked badass. And top it off, they had great casting. Gilroy, the director, and the writing. It ended up being my favorite of the live action Disney Plus series. But I'm still a huge Mandoverse and Boba Fett fan. I think Filoni, when he's making his movie, hopefully he has that in mind too. Practical effects, less green screen, stagecraft. But hopefully he already thought that and applied that theory to the Ahsoka series, which I believe is 100% done.
That's coming out soon.
Yeah. So it's ready to go now. I just hope after that episode 1, I'm not thinking, oh, it's all stagecraft, because I don't know. I know it helps the actors, but I mean, if it doesn't look real to us as the fans, I don't know. We'll see, man. I've got
I'm looking forward to it.
I always have over expectations for these shows because it's owned by like Mr. Moneybags. Like, the people that run these companies, they don't have like a budget. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not like they're like, we only have $100 million to make this movie. I think whatever it costs, and they're going to do it, whether it's Indiana Jones or Star Wars or Marvel movies. They're bread and butters. Even their Disney movies, right? Like their live action Little Mermaid and all these things. They're sparing no expense at these things. So the fact that they've learned how to save a buck with the new stagecraft thing that Favreau kind of helped create, I hope it gets better before it gets worse. I don't think it'll get worse. It'll only get worse if every show starts using it. And it becomes that obvious, because you might be able to make a show in a week now. If all you got to do is change the picture in the background and your costume.
As easy as that.
It could be. Like, I've not worked much in the TV and film business. It's a huge business here in Vancouver, and I have lots of friends in the business. But there's usually it's months and months and months, a year or longer spent on production of a movie, and TV series. Might be weeks for like a half hour, 1 hour episode. So there's a lot of work involved. They can't just always go stand in front of a blue screen and have all the people do all the background work in the editing shop and stuff. You can't just depend on their jobs.
Moving on. Right, you've touched on this just briefly a little while back. When did you stop playing with your toys, and when did you become a collector? So you kind of said about the age you stopped playing with your toys. When did you get back into it again and start collecting again?
So yeah, I stopped. 84, 85 is a good year because I lived in Eastern Canada. Our family
Okay.
relocated to Western Canada, and we drove in a vehicle with our 4 family members and a cat and whatever personal
Yeah.
belongings we had. So the toys I did have as a kid, I sold them to my neighbor kid for $10. So
Wow.
that included, my Star Wars figures and vehicles and AT-ATs, and I had a pretty good collection. I didn't have everything, but I had a lot of toys. My my GI Joe whale that I remember, and I remember driving across Canada, and I had barbecue, which is that orange GI Joe,
That's it.
firefighter looking
Yep.
guy with an
Yep.
axe. Because I think I bought it at a toy store while we were driving across Canada, and I had a Wicket action figure. So, a Return of the Jedi figure, but I just had them. I just kept them for the nostalgia kind of purpose. I know I wasn't a toy lover, but I
Yeah.
don't think I really bought many toys when I moved out here to the West Coast as a, in '84 as a young teen.
Mm.
Um, then when episode 1, 2, and 3, so episode 1, that's when I got back into collecting toys
Okay.
again. And it was exclusively Star Wars. I was buying all the Star Wars,
Yeah.
Darth Maul figures, whatever they made. I was in it. I loved it. I was making decent money. I had no problem, buying toys on, weekly basis. And then I got out of it because there wasn't new Star Wars coming out. So
Yeah.
there was a little while again where I did get out of it, but I started up again with the vintage toys again in
Okay.
about the same time. So when I had all the Darth Mauls, there's no more Darth Mauls to have. Then I went back and I started like buying the vintage toys when I saw them at like a flea market or secondhand store. 1 or 2
Mm.
figures here and there because they were all just a couple of dollars still, right?
Yeah.
Um, then I'm like, you know what? I want them all. I want all of them plus the ones I didn't have as a kid, right? So which included last 17 figures. I don't think I had any of those as a kid. And I started posting some ads, on Craigslist, and it was kind of, we had the internet and stuff at the time. I'm like, yeah, I want to buy your Star Wars collections. Go raid your mom's attic, when you're over there for the weekend. And I had one person contact me, a friend from high school. Actually, this is something I posted on Facebook. His name was Tony, and he's like, "Hey, man, I got Star Wars and GI Joe and Transformers and Shoguns." I'm like, "Yeah, let's bring it all, bring it all." And he brings his SUV down, and yeah, he had like 95% of the vintage Star Wars toys,
Oh wow.
figures and vehicles and play
Yeah.
sets.
Yeah.
And I bought them. I bought them all, man. I made a deal with them. I bought them all, and I have 100% of those toys still. Many of
Awesome.
them, even on the feet, have his initials,
Oh wow.
TD, or his initials. And so now I'm going through some of my duplicates of figures that I have because I'm going to move. I don't think I need 100 Kenner Stormtroopers, so I might move some of them. But
Wow.
all the ones that have the initials on the feet, I'm keeping them, man. Like I didn't make that deal with them. It means that it's not my initials, but I know whose initials they were
Yeah.
because I don't have any toys from my childhood at all, like zero. Not from any tragedies or nothing. It wasn't
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
we kept. I wish I did. Like I see people, they're like, "Oh, here's
Mm.
my original R2D2," and I'm like, "Oh man, I wish I had my R2D2 that, I took in the bathtub or I chewed on
Yeah.
his leg or we did whatever we did with our toys, taped firecrackers to them, stuff like that." I wish I still had some of those, man. So it's neat to get back into it again. It,
What wa-
it's
what
as
was
a
that
hobby for
feeling
me.
like? What was that feeling like when your friend had brought all the stuff over and you actually saw it there for the first time? I mean, how did that make you feel when you saw all that?
Dude, like a little kid again. And
Yeah.
I get that all the time when me and my toy collecting buddies go out to we got a big toy store locally called Toy Traders. It's the largest independently owned toy store in Canada. So it's like take 3 Toys R Us's and put them together and raise their ceilings because
Mm.
he's got all these dioramas inside, you know, old GI Joe, old Star Wars, Tron, basically every toy you could think of.
Yeah.
It's all on display in his personal collection. But he's got also a toy store, so he sells, Funko Pops and all the modern Black Series and Star Wars toys. or Smurfs or Dragons or whatever toys exist, Legos.
Mm.
He sells them all. So again, he's a really, really big retail store. But one big section of it is some vintage toys, and and you see a lot of boxed vehicles and stuff on display. And again, you go into there, and once you get to that the retro or the vintage toy area, you feel like a kid again. So much like
Absolutely.
him opening up his truck back door, he didn't have any of the boxes or anything, but just seeing like
Yeah.
a Rubbermaid with AT-AT legs and Endor treehouse parts and all that stuff sticking out. You're just like, oh my god, those are the ones. Those are exactly the toys I'm looking for. So it was awesome,
Yeah.
and
Wow. That is
I'm gonna
incredible.
always gonna keep those toys, man, for my friend Tony.
Yeah. 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 No. No.
And
Fair
since
play.
then,
Fair
I've
play.
put several ads up again, but it's tough now. Now everyone thinks all their toys are worth $1,000 each, and it's so you're not going to be able to buy a big collection. Like I think I paid him $500 or something at the time,
Wow.
which is still a
Wow.
lot of money, right? But I told him, I
Yeah.
go,
Wow.
it also included some GI Joes and tanks and some
Mm.
Transformers stuff I didn't have a lot of knowledge on, but I did a
Yeah.
little research, and I'm like, you know what? I'm going to sell this other stuff, the
Yeah.
Transformers and GI Joes, because it's not my jam.
Mm.
So I I made half of that back, maybe,
Mm.
selling those. Um, so I
Oh,
kind of got in a little bit of the buying and selling of toys, as it's more of a
yeah, why not?
hobby than a business. But
Do you have a sentimental piece in your collection or a prized piece in your collection?
sentimental or prized? Well, I've got. Let's say this.
Let's get you
So
big.
for as toys go, I think I told you in the past, Star Wars,
Yeah.
Hulk. I like the Hulk, and I like
Okay.
Mr. T. Those are like my
Yeah.
characters that I love. So I've got this Mr. T figure
Oh, wow.
that's about 5.5, 6 inches tall, and
Yep.
it's based on the 3.75 inch Galoob Mr. T toys or 18 toys. But nobody
Wow.
knows the history or the origin of this toy. It's very well made. It feels like it's factory produced. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel cheap like a bootleg. Um, I don't think it's like a prototype, but it's unknown to me. So
Yeah.
this is probably just something I could never get rid of,
Wow.
because it's just something no one knows. It. I post every year. I repost it on my social medias.
Yeah.
Anyone have any information on this or know its origin? And only people, I get all kinds of comments of people like, "Oh, you want to sell that to me, and that should be in my collection." And but no one's ever seen it before, and no one's known. So
It
as I
reminds me
share
of
it a
like a
little
G
more,
O-ring figure.
it
The
is
waist.
it's
Oh,
a
is it?
two
Is it
up.
O-ring?
Yeah, it's definitely got an O-ring. I don't want to pull it too
Oh,
much, but
wow.
it's the
Yeah.
exact
Yeah.
same build style and sculpting details right into the face. And I
Wow.
picked it up, maybe for 30, 40, $50 at a local flea market
Wow.
15 years ago. And the guy was he's mainly selling toys, so
Yeah.
he's buying and selling toys from all over the world on eBay or wherever, and puts them on his table with prices on them, and the stuff usually sells pretty quick. So
Did the
yeah,
guy not know where it was
unknown
from then?
origin. So that's
Did he not know then? The guy that sold it to you, did he not
no,
know? No?
no. He from what I know the guy, and he's a wrestling toy guy. So
Okay.
wrestling is his jam. So if
Yeah.
you were to show him some rare wrestling figure, he can go, "Oh, that's 1952, blah blah." Like you and me might know our Star Wars or other
Yeah.
toys. And I'm a huge Mr. T collector, and I have a lot of Mr. T toys and collectibles, some bootleg, Funko Pops, whatever, you name it.
Mm.
But I don't know what this toy is. Try and do
Wow.
reverse image searches on Google or searching for these toys, and just nothing comes up. So
I know. I know. In the mid '80s, when I was into GI Joe, they did do a 3 3/4 inch green version, Mister T, in his, and it was like O-ring. Do you know the one I mean?
yep,
You're
that's
going to put it out
Galoob.
now, aren't you? Because you've got him as well, have you?
Yeah, here's the 3 3/4 one.
Yeah, that's the one. Wow.
And
I've
then
not
here's
seen that for 8. Yeah, gee, wow.
so yeah, very much the same details.
Ah,
Screws
God,
on the
man.
back, the
Yeah, yeah.
O-ring and stuff. It's just weird, man. It's just that no
That's
one knows
incredible.
anything. Like there's so many knowledgeable toy experts and collectors and
Yeah,
dealers and ex-employees of Galoob and Hasbro or whatever that might know some of these answers that
yeah,
I'm still baffled. Like, so that's a cool piece to have in my collection. Like,
yeah. That's
you would
awesome.
have to offer me many, many, many dollars for me to part with that. Um,
That is awesome.
but I
What
have a
about
couple of props too.
a couple of props? Okay, yep, go on then.
So I guess my holy grail prop would be I found an original Graflex flash handle again
Yeah,
at a toy show. This was just last summer, and I saw it, and my eyes lit up like for the first
yeah.
time in many years. I just see
Wow,
something at the table. It's shiny and chrome, and I knew exactly what it was. And the guy turned it over. He had a price tag on it. It said $350, and I bought it. I just bought it without no questions asked. I bought it, and it's one of the coolest pickups I've ever had, man. It's
awesome.
you want me to grab it? It's just over here.
Yeah, crack on. Yeah, yeah, I'd like to see that. Absolutely.
Okay, you get a three for. So the prop I found is this. This is a Graflex 3-cell flash handle, which was the prop that was used to make the original Luke Skywalker and Darth Vader lightsabers.
Oh, wow.
So really, it's worth
Look at that.
500-600 bucks US. Nothing crazy, but I mean, it's just something I've never seen in the
Yeah,
wild
yeah,
before, because
yeah,
over the past 10 or 20 years, they're highly collectible, and collectors like me or others, nerds of Star Wars, want them for this purpose.
yeah.
So this turns into this.
Oh, well, look at that.
So this, a licensed Disney Parks Rey slash Anakin lightsaber, which is all based on the same thing.
Yeah,
But it's just cool now that because I've had this Disney lightsaber a long time, and to finally get the original to see where it came from is just awesome, man. Like
that's incredible.
so it's again a piece I don't think I could ever part with.
Yeah.
But the first prop replica I ever got, and this is like a birthday present to myself. When I was making more money, I did that every year. I'd buy myself a nice Christmas present, and it's been a while since I bought myself a nice Christmas present. But
What do we
I
got here?
bought this.
Oh, look at that. That is
So
stunning.
this
Wow.
so this is a replica Han Solo blaster. This probably weighs about 15 pounds.
Wow.
It's all steel. It's all made using like original greeblies and parts, and the scope and stuff is all polished and got battle damage where it's supposed to have
Yeah.
battle damage. And yeah,
Wow.
I paid good dollars for this. Um, and I don't think I could ever part with it. Like it's not master replicas or sideshow.
Yeah.
It's a just a maker, a prop maker in the United States. I believe the company was called Todd's Costumes, because he would
Okay.
also make like the leather work for holsters and
Mm.
some jackets and boots and other kind of custom things like that. But yeah, it's something I did a lot of research on. I looked at 3 or 4 of the big prop makers that made these hand solo blasters, and I made a decision. I picked one and I paid for it, and I got it, man. And it's badass. I wish I could afford more cool prop things like that. Like,
Yeah.
and it's higher end. It's a little more of a niche thing, um, but I still get that geeky vibe as a
Oh, absolutely.
as
Absolutely. Yeah.
as, as this guy. Like, I get
Yeah.
my most geeky vibes from this kind of stuff, but the props,
Mm.
stuff that have to do with the original trilogy,
Yeah.
more than any of the other Star Wars stories. That's what makes me a kid
Mm.
again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean,
Talking of
right? Like, that's what I
oh,
love.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I'm with you on that. And talking about bits from the original trilogy and stuff like that. I've noticed that you've got like your own stickers and pins. What got you into doing that? What was the idea behind that? Who come up with that?
Well, for earning income, I'm a graphic designer and always been by trade. So I have an artsy background. I've worked in the t-shirt making business, the
Yeah.
sign making business. I learned how to design websites and a lot of stuff that had to do with graphic design, so brochures, business cards, for the
Yeah.
printing business. But 2015, 16 or so, um, I just started drawing. I think it was 2015. I'm like, I'm going to start drawing Star Wars figures. So I drew Boba Fett, the Kenner
Yeah.
figure, and then I scanned them in the computer, and I drew them in my vector artwork style, because that's the kind of
Yeah.
artwork I do on the Apple computers, and Adobe Illustrator being the vector program I use. Been using this since 1984 in high school,
Wow.
and I got into drawing that, and I'm like, hey, wow, this is pretty cool. And I was working in a sign shop, had my own sticker making machines, so I'm going to make some stickers and give them away to people, or see if people have any interest for them. And then I'm like, oh, I can put this on T-shirts and stuff. And so I started putting them on T-shirts and selling them on TeePublic and some of those print on demand stores. And they're
Yeah.
freaking popular as hell,
Mhm.
very much so that I'm like, you know what, I'm gonna draw all these characters. I'm gonna draw all 92, and I still haven't finished. So since
Wow.
2015, I still haven't drawn all 92 figures, but I've drawn most of them. So yeah, then I got into making.
Incredible.
I made some sticker packs.
Yeah. I'm going
So
to see some of these. Let's have a look.
so there's a back. Here's all the stickers I made so
That's
far.
awesome.
So from A
Yeah.
New
Yeah.
Hope all the way to Return of the Jedi, that's how
Wow.
far I've gotten. So this particular one, and much like Hasbro and Gentle Giant and those other toy companies, I wanted to draw these characters how they would look like if Kenner made them. So
Yeah.
these are my interpretations of, Mando and Gina Carano and the Armorer and all these characters before any of these toys actually did get made, because a lot of them did.
Yeah.
So this
That's
is just a
super
little
cool.
pack of stickers.
Oh,
You know,
that is awesome. Absolutely awesome.
and it was one way of getting my artwork out there. So I
Yeah.
made some of these. I brought some. I gave a bunch away at my first and only Star Wars convention, the Celebration in Chicago, in 2018. I'd already been making these stickers a couple of years now,
Yeah.
and I'd also been these got in the hands of people that worked in Hasbro and Gentle Giant, and because they bought them.
Oh
Um,
wow.
so
Well,
Gentle
so
Giant
just
contacted
interested.
me.
Yeah. What was their reaction to that? Were they cool with that?
Well, the marketing designer at Hasbro, Mr. Steve himself, he bought them from my website. He bought some stickers for me, and
Wow.
I was making out the mail labels, and I'm like, oh, this says I'm mailing this to Hasbro in Rhode Island, and I'm like, wait,
Wow.
maybe I shouldn't be sending this. So, but I did, and he's just a fan of my artwork, and we still communicate on the Instagram, and I've
Oh,
had
that is
Mr.
cool.
Stevie on my YouTube channel, and much
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
you having a little interview with him, I did the same thing and just tried to try to get out of him any new Star Wars figures coming out, and
Oh,
none of it
okay.
worked. But it was fun to try. So then I got Dev at Gentle Giant reached out to me. He was one of the big boys in charge of Gentle Giant. Someone had gifted him some stickers, and he fell in love with the artwork, and he wanted to make some enamel pins with Gentle Giant. So we did that. I did a
Okay.
bunch of artwork. They made some pins, which are right here.
Oh wow. Look again.
Oh, right there. So they made some pins, and these are
They are so cool.
so
They
these are like
really are cool.
actual size pins. They weren't the best of quality, so these were like actual size. So they
Yeah.
made these for the San Diego Comic Con. I believe it was 2018, and
Wow.
they made five. There was five different ones they made. So Han, Chewie, question mark, which was Princess Leia,
Okay.
Stormtrooper, and Darth Vader. So they made
Vader.
those,
Wow. Yep.
and that one I thought they went over really well. And then about not I guess a year later, Gentle Giant got purchased by Diamond Select Toys, and
Okay.
we
Yeah.
were right in the middle of starting. Gentle Giant had started up a new company called Gentle Giant Toys, and they were getting into making toys. So
Yeah.
they'd make these little tin lunch boxes and little, kind of like competing with Funko with little, you know, childlike kind of blind toys and stuff like that. Because they got all the licenses from Marvel and Star Wars, so they can make
Yeah.
all these little cutesy bibobs and pins and whatever. But when Diamond took over and purchased them, they became one big company kind of thing. But they didn't want to continue. They didn't want to be in the pin game.
Okay.
There's licensing fees and
Yeah.
things involved. So they got out of that. And at the same time, I'm like, well, this is cool. I like making these. So when their contract ended with them, as they exchanged hands, and I decided to go and make them in a different size and make them in my way on on little mini card backs.
They are so cool.
So
They
yeah,
are so cool.
so every month I try to release a couple because it helps pay the bills,
Wow.
and yeah, I try to put them on the exact same kind of card back with my own artwork, and I try to create
Yeah.
as many characters that are new that Kenner never made. But at the same
Yeah.
time, we gotta complete the 92. So I do gotta draw a bunch of Ewoks still, and drawing all the little fur things and stuff like that. But it's a lot
That
of
is
fun,
so
man.
cool. Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not get no one's giving me any trouble for it. I don't make thousands and thousands of dollars doing this. It is a hobby, but it keeps me motivated to do more of what I like to do, and that's the
Yeah.
retro toy artwork. And
Yeah.
because of that, I do still get some work from the fine folks at Gentle Giant for their jumbo figures. So I've
Okay. Yeah.
I've done some artwork on the card back designs. Not a
Oh
lot.
wow.
They just asked me to do some editing and change some photos up and some copy on them and stuff like that. And then some original character designs. So there's a
Hmm.
few characters that I drew that I gave to Gentle Giant. They gave me a little check, and then they pass it on to like a sculptor, whether he's a hands-on sculptor or she, or a digital sculptor, because a lot of that stuff's done on the computer now, with your
Yeah.
mouse and whatnot. And then it goes, through test printing and then production. So from my drawing to, the toy making it to the mass market, some of them it's been a couple of years. So there's
Wow.
some toys that I helped work on that still haven't hit the public yet, and
Okay.
so hopefully soon. But it's been a super great relationship with them. Again, it's
Yeah.
not I'm not an employee of them. I do some contract work, but it's just awesome to be able to have that
Oh,
on
absolutely.
on
Yeah.
the resume, so to speak, that I've
Yeah.
made
Definitely.
licensed Star Wars product, and so it's
No, that
more
is so
that
cool.
than
That
the
is so cool.
recognition than you know the
Yeah.
buying a house or the wealth or celebrity that comes with it. I'm honored to be even be asked to do that
No,
kind of
that's
stuff. So
awesome.
it's been a very good
Absolutely awesome.
experience.
With your YouTube channel, what made you decide to start a YouTube channel, and did you have any influences?
What made me to decide to? Well, I've always been a YouTube watcher. As long as YouTube has been around, I've been, how do you fix a leak on your faucet? Like for all the
Yeah.
obvious reasons that YouTube got popular for. But I've never like participated in the live streams or, because that stuff wasn't a big thing 10 plus years ago that people, and
Mm.
maybe it was, and I just didn't see it. But I guess the pandemic, the worldwide global pandemic that we all had
Yeah.
to go through for almost 2 years, if not longer, in some areas, a lot of YouTube was watched. I watched all of YouTube, Stu, all of it. There wasn't an
Yeah.
hour that I didn't watch. I watched all of Netflix. I watched all of it. It sucked, man. I became an
Yeah. Yeah.
introvert, and that's still a part of my. Sadly, I'm gonna say it's still a part of my. It's still a part of me. I'm still introverted, and I never was before. it doesn't mean I don't go out and I don't have a social life.
Yeah.
It's changed, man, since being locked up for 2 years and only
Absolutely.
going out to get toilet paper and groceries, and that was
Yeah.
what life was. There wasn't toy hunting and hoping, pre-order. None of that shit was going on.
Mm.
And then I get to see a lot of, yourself and a lot of the other guys, Shabby, Super Awesome
Yeah.
Geek Show,
Yeah.
Geek Strong, you know, Tez, the previous Universal Collector, um,
Oh, Matt. Yeah, Zero Hunger
Matt,
Toys
all
Fashion.
these
Yeah.
guys, they were all popping up. Once I started watching a couple of these guys,
Yeah.
these grown men playing with toys, there was always channels I watched, Retro Blasting, um,
Yeah.
um, the analog toys in the early days of YouTube. I loved all the channels that talked about the vintage Star Wars toys or GI Joe, or as long as it was vintage, I was interested, man. Even the junk man, if he's talking
Yeah.
to someone about Star Wars toys, chances are I'm going to watch it because why
Mm.
not, right? It's just a form of entertainment for 8 minutes or whatever. But yeah, I never really wanted to be on the YouTube, and I'm still a bit of a shy guy. I'm like the second most handsome guy on the stream right now, and that it's nice to be the most
Stop it.
handsome guy.
I don't know about that, but
But I
yeah.
got a little more comfortable with it. Joined some
Yeah.
people, um, and now it's I'm not gonna say it's like second nature. Now I'm not conscious about is my mustache look good?
Yeah.
Is that too much of a shine in my dome? Because as a bald
Oh,
guy,
I get that all the
that's
time.
something I
Don't worry
got to
about
deal with. Is
that.
turn
Yeah.
off the lights.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's fun. I learn every day at YouTube. Like even just
Yeah.
this morning, the StreamYard company was doing a live stream, and where they kind of pick out channels and tell them what they think they're doing wrong and how they can improve. And they called me out in a chat, and they went over my channel, and like they were blown away. They're like, "Wow, his thumbnails are awesome!" Right away, we can tell he likes vintage Star Wars, and
Mm.
But then they're like, "Oh, why is he called Leftcoast Graphics? Oh, why is he playing with toys?" And then they got confused, and but I got some subs off it. It was kind of neat to see
Awesome.
some people that have never seen my channel before, YouTuber people, see it
Yeah.
and just like right away like my thumbnails and maybe the look of my channel. So yeah, there's still things I'm learning. I would love to do a weekly show like I kind of started about a year ago, but
Mm.
life gets in the way. It's hard to always schedule
Yeah.
an exact thing, but I'm trying. I'm still not super comfortable with it. I like to talk to people like yourself or a guest.
Yeah.
Me going on by myself, or even tape recording myself talking about something. I'm not there yet. Maybe I will
Yeah.
one day. It's not a high priority for me, but I get it, man. I appreciate people that do it. I love the entertainment value of it. It's a new media that us as adults we didn't have this as a kid, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
We got up to change the channel on the TV when the Flintstones was over to watch Bonanza or whatever. That was
Yeah.
so it's different, man.
Wow.
The kids nowadays, how any 18-year-old kid is not making $200 a day doing stupid TikTok dances and YouTube videos is beyond me, man. Because I'm learning. One day I'll make $10 a month off this stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
I mean, I won't be doing TikTok. I don't. I mean, for me, well, to be, I come off social media a while back in 2020, and I'd had enough Facebook, all that sort of stuff, and it was Scuba Pete that got me back into
Scoop.
Instagram, and then that led me to think, okay, well, they're talking about toys, so I can do that. I've got toys. I'm a collector. So then I spoke to Scuba and said, "Do you want to do a live stream?" Then that's when the channel started, and then it's just all sort of snowballed, and here we are today. But there's certain things I still feel uncomfortable with, and that's doing live streams on my own. I always
The
need
same
someone
with
there
me.
to.
Same
Yeah,
with
I
me.
can't do it on
It's
my own.
nice
I
when
just
there's a
yeah,
chat. You can kind of at least bounce off them a little bit.
yeah,
So if you got
absolutely,
a
yeah,
moment of silence, you can answer a question, or talk
yeah,
about whatever someone just posted in the chat. But yeah, so my videos that I tend to pre-make are short and sweet because
yeah,
I don't got a lot to say and I don't do a lot
yeah,
of say scripted content. It's just
yeah.
I'm just going by it.
Oh, I've
Um,
the only scripted content I did was my very first video that I put out on YouTube. that was scripted, and I look back at it now and I think, oh God, that sounds so wooden, and
I
that's why I
want to
don't
do
tend to
it.
script it. Yeah,
I do want to do it. It's just, again, as an artist guy, I'm a little more perfectionist. So if I make an edit, like I've got a lot of videos that I've made and edited, and just they're
yeah,
just still there. That I've never uploaded them or finished them because it's a confidence thing for me. Like if I don't think it looks, badass or funny
yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
appealing, I cannot give up on it. Like same with my artwork. If I might spend days and days drawing something.
Mm,
Something doesn't look right, I'll go redo that, or
yeah,
start from scratch and do it again. Because
yeah,
if I'm going to turn around and say, "Look, here's my finished product," I hope the viewer is as happy as me showing it
yeah.
off, right? So a lot
Absolutely.
of it is that too. Um,
Mm,
we'll see where it goes. Like there's again, I'm a toy guy. I love talking about toys on YouTube. I also love talking about, like, I did some Andor after show and some Boba Fett after show. I love
okay,
talking about those awesome TV shows. A
that's cool.
couple of days after with some
Yeah, yeah.
fellow fans, and you pull out Easter eggs and the member berries and maybe some things you didn't like the
Mm.
lawn chairs and Andor, and then you have a little laugh and a rant about that. So that's what I'm really enjoying about YouTube now, is more
Oh,
the
cool.
community, the
Yeah,
folks that we get to hang with. Before
absolutely.
you today, I was hanging with Hey Vern and on his channel, the Toy Duo, just talking about what's going on at Joe Fest and
Awesome.
making
Yeah, I'd
making
love to
fun of
be
some
there.
new Marvel Legends
I would love
figures
to
and
be
stuff
there.
like that. It's just
Yeah,
having fun, man, with your coffee or your
that's
iced tea.
that's what it's about. That's what
Yeah,
it's about. Um, Come to the top of the hour. I've got two questions left for you. First one is, what gives you that toy collecting buzz?
that buzz. Well, it's a little different now because when we see like maybe a new toy on the horizon, we get, okay, you can pre-order it next Wednesday at 10 o'clock, and it'll ship in November. So
Yeah.
it's really different the past couple of years.
Mm.
So it has to be a really cool toy. So I guess about a year ago they kind of announced, we're going to make these indie retros. That got me
Yeah.
excited. I got totally excited. I'm like, now I just got to wait for them. So that, again, that anticipation, again, the wait for stuff like
Yeah.
for like a $10 action figure or $15, whatever they cost, like that pisses me off, man. Like when it's a year. When
Yeah.
when I order something, okay, a month, I get a month. I understand that. Like, but a year now, it's, or when people back these HasLabs or the crowdfunding
Yeah.
things,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
get how crowdfunds work. I don't think they're there for the big companies. So I
Yeah.
don't. I'm a little frowned upon that, but I get it because basically they've been doing it for 2 years now, and not just on HasLab. So like when Hasbro announces, look, here's the new Return of the Jedi Gamorrean figure on the 60th anniversary card back.
Yeah.
They're they're doing it. It's a crowdfund. They're taking pre-orders on
Yep.
Hasbro's website, on Amazon's website, on Big Bad Toy Store, on Entertainment Earth. They're all taking pre-orders, and they report those numbers to Hasbro. Entertainment Earth, yes, we'd like to order 1,000 Gamorreans. Big Bad, we'd like to order 800. So then Hasbro knows, okay, we got to make 10,000 of these toys. They're not already made in production. Like it may be disguised as just a long pre-order, but it
Yeah.
is just a pre-order now. It's not just for the small companies that kind of need it to do a
Yeah.
Kickstarter. Like me, when I make my pins, I kind of need 50 people to pre-order it, or I can't make it.
Okay.
Like I need 80 people to pre-order it. I make a profit. So it's like,
Wow. Yeah.
I take a chance every month when I announce a couple of new pins. And there's been a couple of months where, like, oh, these weren't the most popular characters to choose. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen when I make a Lobot and like an Ugnaught. Like, I just don't see them as being popular pins to buy, but I have to make them because I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to make pins for every 92 to complete the 92. So it'll be tough that month. Maybe I won't put them together.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the
Yeah.
anticipation of the new toys. I love it when they announce them.
Yeah.
Now they do these live streams. I don't know. they're taking a bit away from our fun that we like to do. Let us
Yeah.
deal with the YouTube and the live streams. Just post your pictures or make a video and release it, because it's all pre-recorded anyway. There's no point to make it seem like it's a live stream and you're reading our chats, because you're not. It's just, similar to you. If we make a big mistake, they can go back and edit it. So
Yeah.
they stopped doing that when that Hasbro employee announced, oh yeah, and when we announced the Rancor, I mean,
Oh, yeah.
like
Yeah.
three
Wow.
months before they probably meant to announce it. That's
Wow.
why they don't do these live anymore. Like, they're all pre-recorded. It is what
Wow.
it is, but I mean, leave that for
Yeah.
us. Let the toy reviewers and collectors have their fun on the social media video channels.
Yeah.
Just take great action take photography, much like we do. Like, I like taking pictures, but
Mm.
like Hasbro does with their GI Joe team and even the Power Rangers, they go take wicked photographs of
Yeah.
these toys, and those are selling. Those are to sell, selling tools. But it seems like sometimes with Star Wars and some, they're like, here's a gray unpainted model on a black background, and pre-order it, please. It's
Yeah.
sometimes it's like they're not all the same company. So it's weird because now McFarlane Toys, they seem to, like, on Mondays go, oh, look, there's a new Batman and a new Flash coming. You can pre-order now, and then they're like in the store tomorrow.
Yeah. Crazy, isn't it?
It's it's
Doing a good
it's
job.
all the same business, same industry,
Yeah.
just that some people have different rules or licensing
Mm.
deals, or I don't know. It's interesting, man. I'm a huge
Last.
fan of the toy industry. I'm learning
Yeah.
every day from all the different companies, even just what we see on
Mm.
the internet. But it's still a huge industry.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Last question. What does your collection mean to you?
My collection means sanity. So I think if I was not collecting, I'd either be overworking. Was that the way to put it? I would be doing something else that I probably wouldn't be enjoying as much.
Yeah.
So, and that would probably be like working, I guess, doing
Mm.
something, because I don't know if I'd be going to learn. Like, I do a lot of, I learn every day on stuff. Like I said,
Yeah.
I learned something about StreamYard and streaming today. I learned something about GI Joe toys earlier with Vern. And when I watch people do some travel vlogs on YouTube, I might learn something about Egypt that I didn't know if I wanted to go travel there. So as for going to school and educating myself on a new trade or something like that, it's probably not
Yeah.
going to happen. But
Mm.
yeah, I guess the toy collecting and even my artwork, to a sense, I think I'll always be doing both, because it keeps me grounded. It keeps me, maybe immature in a way, which
Yeah.
I'm okay with, because it doesn't affect my life in any bad way. Sure,
Mm.
I'm immature. I like dick and fart jokes and funny Jay and Silent Bob movies and my action figures, but I'm still an adult. I still have friends and family that I care about, and
Yeah.
I have to treat with respect and stuff,
Absolutely.
and I go about that with my everyday life too, right? Like, I live in a place where I'm the most multicultural place in the world, in Vancouver, Canada, where I
Mm.
have to, not have to, I choose to live here, and and I appreciate all the different people around me that surround me in my, whether it's in my apartment building or down at the shopping center, or at the community parks and stuff, where I like to go and take pictures of my action figures. Like,
Yeah.
some grown men can't go to parks and take pictures of action figures, for weird, obvious reasons. There's lots of weird shit going on out there, but I
Absolutely.
like the
Yeah.
community that I live in,
Mm.
and I hope to keep doing cool artwork and playing with my toys, man.
Yeah.
Now
Awesome
that
stuff.
summer, I want to take a lot more pictures. I like
Yeah.
taking pictures of toys. Sometimes, like the YouTube, I get a little uncomfortable, kneeling down at the park and taking a picture of Mr. T or Bigfoot or
Yeah.
whatever,
Yeah.
because people come up and ask you, "What are you doing?" And then whatever. Then you got to have a conversation. So, but I don't mind, because it's always a friendly conversation. It's not like a cop coming in, hey, what are you doing? You know,
Yeah.
what are you doing
Yeah.
out here with a camera? There's kids around here. So it's, I don't get that vibe at all. I may look
Oh,
funny,
cool.
but it's fun to go out and play with some toys, man, and then get
Awesome.
some of these people's reactions going, what's that guy doing over there? That's
Awesome stuff. Rick, it's come to the end of the interview, mate. The end of the chat. It's been absolutely interesting and it's been great chatting to you, or chatting with you, should I say? It's been absolutely awesome. Where can people find you on social media? What are your social media platforms?
awesome, Stu. Well, thanks for having me. First off, man,
No, it's been an absolute
I've been
pleasure.
looking
It's
forward to
been
this for a few weeks
oh,
now. We
cool,
you
awesome.
planned
Thank you.
this well in advance, so get
Yeah,
all the
yeah.
schedules straight. Um, I had a lot of fun. This is my first pre-recorded show, so to all the people
Okay,
in the
cool.
chat, hey, what's up? What's shaking? Um, as you can see on the screen, I am Left Coast Graphics on most of the social medias. So Instagram is one of my preferred methods, but I'm also
Yep.
on the Facebook and the Twitters and the YouTubes, and also with my social handles. I'm also Heroes and Villains Toys and Collectibles. So that's more my toy photography and sharing links of new Star Wars toys coming out. And my Left Coast brand is more my artwork. So right now on YouTube, they're both
Awesome.
kind of combined, but on all my other social medias, they're separated. But so it is what it is. It's all the same to me, man. I love my toys and I love drawing my
Awesome.
toys.
I
So
I think I've picked up. Let me just go back here. I think this might be one of yours. Is this one of yours?
no,
Heroes and villains.
that's another company that offered to buy my name from me
Oh, oh,
because
I'll
I
get rid
have
of
like
these. And I thought they were yours.
no, but the Heroes and Villains Toys and Collectibles is my Facebook brand, which I've had since like Facebook started, and I use that page and I created many of the collecting groups that I'm in and created. So there's vintage Star Wars groups, buy sell trade. There's a Hulk fan
Yeah,
group. There's all stuff that I'm familiar with and I care about. Vintage toys, a Canadian specific group for all those too, and I utilize them all. Like if I'm also an Amazon affiliate, so if I share a link to my page and people go and buy the new Indiana Jones figures, end of the day, I make a couple pennies off that stuff, and and I do appreciate it. But it's a little bit of a, I guess, just a hobby because it's not a profession.
yeah.
I do it more for the enjoyment of it. And again, I started doing a lot of this during the pandemic, or doing a lot more social media and stuff than I used to. But I dig it, man. I dig the social media. You would think you
Cool.
couldn't get friendly and enjoy people's company and become friends with them, but it has for sure happened, man. So you're very
Good, man.
welcoming, Stu.
Good. Oh
So
no, thank
thank
you,
you
thank
to
you.
for all your questions being quite kind, and nothing that
Oh, no.
to cancel Left Coast, right?
No, 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 no. Good
it's all
God,
fun
no.
and
Jeez,
games,
no,
man.
no. Absolutely, absolutely. There's that's the last thing I want to do. I just come on and I'm just a nosy bugger, really. I just want to know things about people. I want to know what got them into collecting, and I wanted to know about your graphics and your pins and that's why I asked the questions. It's not nothing to do with like it's just an interest, and I find it interesting. That's why I love doing this series and having people like yourself on. Rick, it just makes the series. So thank you. If it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't have a series. So there
Keep
you are.
on doing what you're doing, man.
Thank you.
It's a
Appreciate it.
joy to watch. The toys are, again, that's our jam. So is Star Wars your number one toy, or do you have a toy above it?
Oh no, no. Star Wars is my number one. Always will be. Although McFarlane DC Multiverse is pushing it quite close at the moment. I go through
Yeah,
phases. So like one month I'm like getting like a load of Star Wars stuff, and then I'm like, oh, look, Motu. So I'm just all over the place. But Star Wars, if everything had to go and I could only keep one toy line, it would be my Star Wars that I'll be keeping.
yeah. I think that's a common answer for a lot of us
Yeah,
in this toy
yeah,
community too.
absolutely,
I'm really looking
absolutely.
forward to the Flash movie. I just think it's going to have lots of fun little throwbacks and Easter eggs
Yeah, I
and
hope so. I
dingleberries
hope
that
so.
we're all going to love, man, from our
I hope
Batman
so.
'89 or older, our movies that we enjoyed. So can't
Absolutely.
wait, man. That and Indiana Jones
Awesome
are the
stuff.
next cool things I'm looking forward to.
Definitely. Anyhow, Rick, my friend, that is it for the conversation, mate. And like I say, really appreciate you taking the time out to do this. All your social media links or links I will put in the
Awesome, buddy.
description below. Not a problem at all. For everybody watching, really appreciate your support. Thank you so much. Take care, stay safe, and we shall see you in the next one. This has been Rick
Thank
from
you.
Leftcoast Graphics. Take care. Bye bye for now.